Well, hello everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm so excited to see 500 people showed up tonight. That's just great. I know there are a lot of things you all could be doing with your time right now, so I really appreciate your taking the time out of your schedule to spend a few minutes with me to really think about what you want for your health. And I know just the fact that you're here, your future health will far exceed others because most people take a very passive approach to their health and leave it to others, doctors, etc. So hopefully tonight I will scare you a little out of that approach. Or perhaps a better way to put it, inspire you to take the reins of your health into your own hands. I appreciate your time, and so I promise to sell you no timeshares, and I have no network marketing opportunities up my sleeve. In fact, I'm not going to try to sell you anything, so it's okay to relax. The purpose of tonight is to share vital information with you that can change people's lives, maybe your life, maybe someone in your family, maybe a friend that you will share this with. As I'm talking, you're probably not going to be thinking just about yourself, but at points you'll think, oh, I wish my mother could know this, or my coworker could hear this. Keep that in mind, and I will give you easy ways to share this with those people at the end. And for guests, for those interested in implementing these ideas, we're going to give you an opportunity to come into the office and work with us as well. I want to start with a little story about a polar bear. This is a true story about a polar bear cub that was given to the Denver Zoo in Colorado a number of years ago, and it was an unexpected gift, so they didn't have a place planned, a habitat ready for him. So he was left in this cage where he could take 3.5 steps in one direction, and actually he could frolic right around in this cage as a little polar bear cub. But he grew pretty quickly, and the zoo had other priorities, and one thing led to another, and 6 months passed and they still didn't have a place to put this polar bear. So he had grown to full size at that point, and now he could only take 3.5 steps in one direction. And then he had to kind of rear himself up and brush against the sides of the cage and flop down. Then he could take 3.5 steps in the other direction, rear up, scrape against the sides of the cage, flop down, 3.5 steps in the other direction. Long story short, it ended up being 11 years that this polar bear was left in this cage. And at the end of that time, they finally got their act together and they made a polar bear habitat. And they must have felt pretty guilty because they made one of the most spectacular polar bear habitats ever made for a polar bear in captivity. It was filled with beautiful caves and icebergs and ice slides and water, and it's just a polar bear, as much of a polar bear heaven as you could have in captivity. And they had a big opening ceremony, and they put the cage into this space, and we pushed the polar bear out of the cage, and they waited to see what he would do. What would he do first? Would he run over into the cave? Would he jump into the water? Would he? And what do you think the polar bear did? Yeah, he took 3.5 steps in one direction, and then he reared up, flopped around, 3.5 steps in the other direction, back and forth. So they got the animal trainers in there, and they tried to lure him out of his imaginary cage. They would put food, a couple yards from his cage, and he would take 3.5 steps. He would look over, could see the food, he could certainly smell it, he would sniff, but he knew he couldn't get it. In his mind, that polar bear cage was just as real as it had ever been in reality, and he would flop around, take 3.5 steps in the other direction. And that polar bear would have starved had they not moved the food closer to him. So, why do I tell this story? What does a polar bear have to do with my bad back? So we all have polar bear cages, belief systems, and those belief systems are necessary in order for us to help make sense of our world. When we study other cultures, countries, or even our own next door neighbor, we realize there are vast differences in belief. Usually not based on any rigorous study and analysis, but simply based on what we are taught growing up. And we realize how arbitrary many of our beliefs are when we look at others. So some of what I tell you tonight may be outside your polar bear cage, so to speak. The problem with that is that your beliefs may actually be limiting your ability to experience full health by causing you to make limiting choices. And I hope that before you turn your back on some of this new information, you take a good pause and a long polar bear sniff. Everything I tell you has been backed by voluminous amounts of research over decades. And don't worry, I'm not going to bore you with all of that tonight. I'm just going to suggest to you tonight that much of what you believe to be inevitable in the decline of your health and your aging is simply not true. I love a famous quote of Mark Twain's where he said, "It ain't so much what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." So in the past few decades, and especially in the past few years, much of what we thought to be true about sickness and decay has been shattered by scientific discoveries. I'm going to suggest that the outcome of your life and health is going to depend not on your health insurance or your doctor, but 90% on your lifestyle choices. I'm going to suggest tonight it's possible to be healthy and vibrant right up until the moment you die, despite what you see in your parents, your grandparents, or in nursing homes. I would like you to give up that light bulb vision of your life and start believing that you are a candle to burn brightly until you are blown out in an instant. So, I'm going to start tonight by talking about healthcare, which may seem like an obvious place to start, but ironically, with all the talk today about healthcare, I don't actually hear anyone talking about healthcare. They're all really talking about sickness or disease care. Let me ask you, what do you have to be in order to use your health insurance? Sick, isn't that right? And when do you usually go to the, quote, healthcare provider? When you're sick, outside of an annual physical, right? So, healthcare, this so-called healthcare, is really designed to treat sickness and to treat the symptoms of the sickness, not the underlying causes. For example, if you have by the way, back at disease symptom care, usually I put in there too, a lot of patients will say, well, I go to my doctor for preventative care. I get mammograms and colonoscopies. And that's great. That's not health care, though. That's early detection care. There's a big difference. There's nothing about a mammogram that actually prevents breast cancer. There's nothing about colonoscopy that prevents colon cancer. It detects it early on, which is a good thing. But there's nothing your medical doctor actually does to promote health in your body. It's about detection and it's about changing symptoms. For example, if you have a headache, what are you taught to do from a very, very early age on? Take a medicine to change that. Obviously, a headache is not a Tylenol deficiency. In fact, I've never found a headache that I couldn't find some kind of cause in the body that was creating that headache that could and should be corrected. Let's say you have high blood pressure. You go to the doctor. What does he or she do for you? We're going to have a medication that lowers the blood pressure. That's assuming your body is dumb. There's a reason for everything your body does. Why do you have high blood pressure? Is it possible the arteries in your body are clogging so tightly that your heart's having to pump harder and harder to push that blood through your blood vessels? Don't worry, we'll just lower the blood pressure and not worry about that. What if you have a muscle spasm? Doctor's going to give you a muscle relaxant, right? there's always a reason for a muscle spasm. Your body is trying to protect something. Have you ever wondered why when someone's back supposedly goes out, they have a muscle spasm and they can move one direction, but they can't move the other direction? Why is that? The body is protecting them from moving into a position that would cause further damage and possibly rupture a disc. You have an organ that's not working, the solution typically is to remove that organ, as if we have spare parts or extra parts, or that all our parts aren't doing something very important, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So maybe this is working. Is this working, this disease care? Americans make up only 4% of the world's total population, yet we account for almost 50% of all the money spent on Medicare. We have the best doctors in the world. We have the best hospitals. We have the best technology. So we're number one, right? Well, in cost, we're number one, according to the World Health Organization. But we're number 37 in terms of healthcare quality. There are a couple developing countries that rank higher than us in terms of health outcomes. So let me ask you this. What's the number one leading cause of death in the United States today? And I wait for some responses. And most people guess that it's heart disease. That's right. And even the American Heart Association says now 80% of heart disease is preventable by proper lifestyle choices. Not despite the genetics. What's the number two leading cause of death in the United States today? That's right, the big C, cancer. 1 in 3 people are going to die prematurely from cancer. 1 in 2 from heart disease, by the way. So look at your person sitting next to you. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So what's the first symptom of heart disease? So you know if you're going to be one of those first 2 that might die prematurely from a disease we now know 80% could be preventable with lifestyle choices. What's the first symptom so you know if you should start making some of those lifestyle choices now? I give people a chance to make some guesses, and then I let them know that in 50% of the case, the first symptom is sudden death. It's too late then. So now's the time to start making some changes. And then with the cancer, the 1 in 3 people, and even the American Cancer Association says 90% of cancers could be prevented with proper lifestyle choices. And what's the third leading cause? And I give people a chance to try to guess this, and no one ever does. And I say it's interesting that no one ever guesses this because it's been well published. Some people say it's even the leading cause now, but the American Medical Association ranks it as the third leading cause of death. Prescription medication, not including any mistakes, properly prescribed and properly taken. 106,000 people, Americans, every single year are dying from this. More than the number of people that died, and all the people that died in the Vietnam and Korean wars combined, that more than that are dying every single year from prescription medication. And yet no one's even talking about it. This doesn't mean never take a medication again. We all know medications can save lives. Maybe someone close to you's life been saved, maybe your own. But it shouldn't be a lifestyle choice. It's a great quote I love by Einstein. The solution to problems cannot be found at the same level of thinking that created the problem. So, raise your hand if you simply think that we need more drugs, more treatments, more surgeries to fix our massive health problems. Do we just need to go deeper, further, and faster in this direction? I love expressions. They tell the truth. The only thing worse than going in the wrong direction is speeding up. If the first thing to do when you find yourself in a hole is stop digging. So the solution is not more pills and not and more technology. So I want to suggest to you that we're born to be healthy, not a dimming bulb. And here I have a rheostat light bulb that a giant one that I dim down. Most people think we're kind of like a car where, we're born, bright and shiny and functioning smoothly, and then over lifetime, things just start to break down, and I use the light bulb and I lower it, and we get more and more achy and more tired and hunched over, and things start to break down and blah blah blah. But we're not a machine. We're not like a car at all. We're alive. We have this intelligence inside us. It's always thriving to be healthy. And I want to suggest to you that instead of being on this trajectory, or this one, or this one, or this one, you can be right up until the age where actually all of our cells are designed to live 120 years and then drop off. So you need to decide where you want to be on that. I want you to learn 3 things. Go away with 3 understandings tonight. One is that you're brilliant. You're in a brilliant body. You're designed to be healthy, and your spine is your lifeline. So let's talk about how brilliant you are. Here's how you started. 2 cells, 2 simple cells, a sperm and an egg. 16 years later, you're able to take SATs. How unbelievably brilliant is that? 2 cells, invisible to the eye, contain all the necessary software to create you. They collide and combine, and you are you in 270 days. What have you done in the last 270 days? Makes you feel a little lazy, doesn't it? Actually, you've done a lot. You've done a lot in just the few minutes I've been talking. Your heart's been pumping 4,000 gallons of blood every day. You're breathing 23,000 times every day. Except for your brain cells, 50 million of the cells in your body will have died and been replaced with others, all while you have been reading this sentence. The average lifespan for a stomach cell is 2 days. Your body's always making new ones. Unlike a car, your body's constantly making new cells. All the different parts of your body at different speeds, your muscles every few months, even your heart. There's not a cell in your heart today that was there 3 months ago. In fact, every 9 years, all of the cells in your body, except for your brain and central nervous system, all the cells have replaced themselves at least once. So unlike a car that's wearing out, you're only 7 years old. So that aging excuse doesn't fly in this office. You're designed to be healthy. Your body's thriving to be healthy. Did you know that you have a defense against germs? Everyone goes around and says they're coughing, sneezing because they caught a germ from someone. Let me tell you something. You are swarming with germs right now, inside and out. There are more germs in your colon on the inside. There are more germs than you have cells in the body. About 750 trillion, 10 times as many germs inside your body right now as you have human cells. You're actually more germ than you are, more bacteria than you are human, really. Now, what if I could get a great antibiotic that could kill off all those germs so that you could never be sick again? How many of you would love that antibiotic? You just take it once a day. You never have to worry about getting sick. Raise your hand if you'd like that antibiotic. I can see you're guessing this is a trick question. I don't see any hands going up. So you would actually die. Yeah, germs keep you alive. They break down food in your colon so that you can digest it properly. They create a barrier against parasites and other unwanted molecules in your colon. So everyone thank your germs right now and be happy that you had them. Now there's some germs that can make you sick. So your body has this whole system, the immune system. It's the largest system in your body that's designed to locate germs that are out of balance and create antibodies and keep them in balance. So every time your immune system locates a new germ it doesn't like that could be harmful to the body, it creates an antibiotic specific to that particular germ to disable it. Everyone worries about getting cancer. 1 in 3 people are going to get cancer, and yet your body has a mechanism for healing cancer. Remember when I talked about your body being only 7 years old? That's because cells are constantly dividing and replacing themselves. So one cell duplicates everything inside the cell. So there are 2 of everything, and then it splits. So now you have 2 equal cells. And for it to do that, there's that DNA. You're all familiar with that helical strand of genetic material that gives all the information for everything there is to know about your body. And so before the cell can divide, it needs to duplicate that. And your DNA is just 4 amino acids. It's all it is. And just the sequence of those 4 amino acids give your body all the information it needs to know to make you. And those amino acids, it's that DNA strand. You have 75 trillion cells in your body, and inside each one is that strand of DNA. If you were to, and it's tightly coiled to be able to fit into that cell. If you were to take the DNA out of one cell and stretch it out straight, it would be 6 feet long. But it's very tightly coiled. So what your body does is it uncoils a little piece of it in that tiny, tiny microscopic cell, and it replicates that piece. And then it coils back up and uncoils the next piece, and that replicates. And then it coils back up, uncoils, replicates, uncoils, coils. Now you have 75 trillion cells doing this all day long. Mistakes occur, and those can happen for any reason. They can happen because you encounter something carcinogenic that creates a mutation, or it can just be, exercise can cause it, just random things. As you're sitting here right now, actually mistakes have occurred in the replication of your DNA. The start of cancer. We all have the start of cancer in our body right now. So don't panic. Your body has a mechanism for fixing this. There's a whole team of cells, part of your immune system, and we don't know how they do this, but they detect the mutated cell. They crawl through the cell membrane. They find the nucleus of the cell. They crawl into the nucleus. They find that DNA, that mutated DNA. They uncoil that piece of DNA, and the 2 amino acids that are out of order, they, like a seamstress, they switch it back into the proper order so that cell is normal. Think about the intelligence that your body has to do that for you. Now, if that does not occur, that cell divides into 2 cells that are mutated. And there's nothing wrong with those cells, actually. They're typically very healthy. They're just not you. They don't have your DNA. So it's like a foreign body growing inside your body, and those 2 cells duplicate and duplicate again, duplicate. So now you have a mass of cells, very healthy cells. They're just not you, and they push against your body parts. And then parts of them break off and go to other places. That's metastasis, and that can kill you, even though we have a defense already inside our body for fixing that. In fact, there's not a disease known to mankind that we cannot find a mechanism inside your body already for fixing that disease. Your body already produces anti-inflammatories, your body produces muscle relaxants, antibiotics, your body produces sleeping chemicals to put you to sleep, chemicals to wake you up. Everything you need for healing anything is already inside you. And there's not a disease known where some percentage of the population did not get it or cured themselves from it, including the bubonic plague and AIDS and everything else, nothing. So why do people get sick? Why are we all sitting in a doctor's office if our body's so incredible? What is sickness? Sickness is not, one thing it is not is the absence of, is the opposite of health. I want to give you a little analogy about light and darkness. Darkness is not the opposite of lightness. Darkness is simply the absence of lightness. So if you're in a dark room and you want to get rid of the darkness, you have to shine light in. So I'm going to suggest to you that the only way to get rid of disease and sickness is not to try to get rid of the disease, the darkness, but you need to shine health in. You need to create more health. Sickness is simply the absence of health, just like darkness is the absence of that light. So we need to study not sickness, but we need to study health. Just like darkness does not exist, is simply the lack of light. So let's talk about what keeps you healthy. You have these 75 trillion cells in your body, all doing their own thing, but they have to work. They have to work together. And there's a system, of course, your nervous system, which is made up of your brain, and spinal cord, which extends all the way down to between your hip bones. I'm going to back up here because when I introduce the brain, I like to talk about a little bit about what the brain does. So your brain is unbelievable. Your brain coordinates trillions of functions simultaneously in order to keep your body in existence before you even move a muscle. Just sitting there right now, every instant, the snap of a fingers, your brain had to coordinate some trillions, quadrillions, some scientists say an infinite number of functions simultaneously to keep you going. If you know, if in med school, chiropractic school, we spend 4 years studying, memorizing from early morning till night, till bedtime, just to learn all the things that your body does in order to keep you working right. And there's a quote from a famous scientist in France, I remember, that said, there's been such an explosion of what we understand about how the body works. He said, I would say we're up to knowing 1/1000th of 1% about how the body functions and is able to do what it does. So your brain has to perceive everything that's going on in your environment, your external environment and your internal environment. Everything that's happening in the body has to perceive everything simultaneously, interpret it, and make an adaptive response. So your body's adapting to the sound of my voice, the oxygen content of this room, the lighting of this room, the temperature of this room. It's your body's adapting to what you put into your stomach last for food and to digest it, all while you don't have to think about a thing. And it connects to your body through the nervous system. Your spine is really your lifeline. If you want to think of it like the fuse box. And before, when I talked to you about your body being only 7 years old. I lied to you a little bit. The central nervous system is the only part of your body that doesn't replace itself so much. A little bit. We're finding out now there's a little bit more regeneration than we thought. But typically when people get, if they get a muscle severed or a ligament, cut, your bone broken, the body replaces that. But if you get your nerves cut, the body can't reconnect that. So the body very intelligently protected your brain and spinal cord with bone. That's why it's that organ. You have that skull bone to protect your brain. You have a whole column of bone to protect your spinal cord. So if we have this amazing system, this incredible intelligence inside us, it's coordinating these quadrillions of functions simultaneously and all these magnificent things, and is able to heal cancer and germs and everything else. Why do we get sick? There's got to be, instead of studying the darkness, the sickness, we want to look for what could be possibly interfering with the light, with the health. So there are some common interferences that we all are well aware of and we hear and talk about all the time. Not getting the proper nutrition, of course, is affected. Not moving the body affects. Not getting the right sleep. Sleep is when you repair and replenish. And even our thoughts, voluminous amounts of research to show how what we think, how it affects our body, which is a little bit what this talk is about, is our own beliefs actually create problems in our body. I'm not going to talk about any of these right now tonight, because these things you've heard talked about a lot and they're everywhere, and we actually have a system that we gave you the opportunity as a new patient to sign up for, which is comes by email series, Bonfire Health, which is, we make it easy for you to adopt 39 healthy habits regarding these things into your life over 90 days for free. But I want to talk about the fifth interference, which is subluxation, because it's often a word that people have never even heard of before they come to our office. Never even heard of the word. So I'm going to talk about that briefly. If you're already a patient, you know what it is. So I'm just going to do a brief summary for our guests. But because these bones in the spine are movable, and I always have, during the talk, I always have the spinal model out there so I can show people. They have to be movable so we can move, and so to create spaces for the nerves to come out between the bones. But because of that, they can shift out of proper alignment, which alters the communication between the brain and the body. And I pick up the subluxation model with the blinking light to show that. As chiropractors, our goal is to find these subluxations and correct them. And as a chiropractor, actually, I have no treatment for back pain or neck pain or headaches. Everyone can leave right now if they'd like. But the good news is your body does. Like I said, your body produces the muscle relaxants it needs, the anti-inflammatories it needs. It knows what to do. So our goal is to remove the nerve interference so that your body can do that. And transmit those nerve impulses to all, not just your muscles, but all your internal organs. And it doesn't take a lot of pressure at the spine. Pressure equal to 25 millimeters of mercury, which is about the weight of a quarter, was shown to cut off nerve flow by 60% in a study. So sometimes the adjustment can be very slight, can have a profound effect. So where do these subluxations come from? Well, you can see right here, probably right off the bat, but even before that time, the birthing process. I know this is a troubling picture to look at, but if you look in gynecological obstetrical textbooks on, showing students how to deliver a baby. It's written 90 to 120 pounds of pull pressure is acceptable. Can happen, and certainly with forceps delivery or suction cup deliveries, the spinal cord can be stretched 2 to 2.5 inches, and then as the baby is extracted, there is a maximal rotation of the neck that occurs that can cause problems. So we treat a lot of newborns immediately after birth. It's not the same adjustment you get. It's a very light finger adjustment on the muscle, very comfortable for the baby. But over a lifetime, our bad habits add up. There can be big traumas, or there can be a lot of small micro traumas that add up over time. The problem is many people are suffering from subluxations and don't even know it. And the reason for that is only 10% of the nervous system registers pain. 90% of your nerves can be altered without any pain at all, because those nerves are controlling function of all the other, all those body parts. So it's kind of like the difference between static on a cell phone on the line coming to you or going away. If there's static going away, you are unaware of it, and yet it dramatically alters the message that gets through to the other side. So how do you know if you have a subluxation? Well, there are a lot of ways that we check for out there. It needs to be objective ways. We can't go by symptoms. So there's instrumentation we use in our office. There's what's called motion palpation, where we feel the spine and how it moves. There's static palpation, which palpation just means feel. We feel how everything's positioned when it's not moving. We look at x-rays. Visualization, we look at posture. I'm going to have everyone stand up right now. We're going to do a posture check. Stretch our legs too. It's not good to sit too long for the back. So everyone's going to stand up, and underneath your seat you have a clipboard with a posture analysis, and I want you to pair up with someone. If you came with someone, you can use them, and if not, we can pair you up. I want the one person to stand sideways to the other person. That other person hold the clipboard and look at the person. Actually, I'm going to have them stand with their back to you. And the person in back, look at the person in front of you. Look at their shoulders. Does one shoulder look higher than the other? This can be a sign of a curvature in the back. So if it is, just check off that side on the form that you have there. And then look at the head. Look at the earlobes. Are they tilted one side to the other? And if so, check that off. And then have the person stand sideways to you and look at their sideways posture. Their ear should be directly over their shoulder. If it's in front of their shoulder, that's causing a neck problem. We know that. And I go through some of that. When I finish with that, I just say, this is something that you can, look at the people that you live with and check them. If some of these things are wrong, they should be checked. In our office, we use something called a subluxation station, where we can actually measure the nerve signals that exit the spine at the different levels. These are some sample scans, and if you're a patient, you've already seen yours. Anything white on these scans is normal. These colors here indicating mild, moderate, and severe nerve interferences. I'm going to give you a sample case study here. This is Amber, a 6-year-old who came under care with a history of asthma, 2 sets of ear tubes. She was on 13 different medications a day to deal with all her health problems. This was her first scan. These reds are severes, black is off the chart, nerve interference. After 5 months of care, this is her post-scan. You can see the dramatic improvement with her nervous system functioning properly. Medication free at that point, and not one asthma attack. Did she have back pain? No, she didn't. So when you get home tonight, so I'm sure you're starting to wonder what your scan looks like if you haven't seen yours yet, or wondering if subluxations affect your family. I want to end with one study here. In the beginning, we talked about, is medical care working? Well, what about chiropractic care? Is it, it's nice theory, but is it working? So there was an independent study that was done by an insurance company, and it was supposed to be a 2-year long study, but the results were so astonishing they continued it for 7 years. And they gave their members the option of choosing chiropractors as their primary care physician instead of a medical doctor. And that means if whoever your primary care physician, your PCP is, you have to see them first under an HMO plan before you can see any other doctor. So if someone had an ear infection, asthma attack, or needed a cardiologist or a medical doctor, they had to go see their chiropractic PCP first if they chose a chiropractor, and then the chiropractor would refer them as needed. They had unlimited chiropractic adjustments were offered, unlimited, and they were checked up at least every 1 to 3 months. They saw the chiropractor, and the results were that the people who saw chiropractors had 60% fewer hospitalizations, 85% fewer outpatient surgeries and procedures, and 50% less medication usage. And in case you're worried these poor patients were being denied the medical care they wanted, they actually had the highest patient satisfaction rating of any provider group that Blue Cross Blue Shield evaluated. Can you imagine? We talk about a healthcare crisis in our country. Can you imagine if everyone saw chiropractors? What kind of healthcare savings we could be talking about? So, when you get home tonight, you may turn on the TV. And I want you to notice there are about every third ad is going to be for some medication. And that they're going to be beautiful people you'll see in these ads, smiling and prancing through beautiful fields of poppies with no allergies. And, they're beautifully done. But and if we had time to stop to think in our busy life, we would realize that our allergies simply can't be due to a lack of antihistamine drug in our body. But you'll notice one thing: there are no ads for chiropractic. And the reason for that is just money. A medication can be reproduced an infinite number of times, but there are only so many patients a chiropractor can adjust in a day. So the profit margin isn't there to produce these beautiful ads for chiropractic. So it's up to you. Chiropractic has grown to be the second largest healthcare profession worldwide, simply due to word of mouth, people telling other people. So I want you to think right now of the person who referred you in, and I want to ask you to do me 2 favors. When you get home tonight, call and thank them for giving you the opportunity to know you have options for your health. Because without them telling you, you wouldn't be here tonight and you couldn't get the chiropractic care you've been getting. And secondly, the other favor is please pay it forward. The only way others' lives will change is if you let them know about the opportunity. So in closing, I'm certain of one thing, that most, if not all of you who aren't patients are wondering if you have nerve interference or what your scans look like. You may be asking yourself, I wonder what my child's scans look like, or my spouse's scans. And one thing I don't want to do is let you leave here wondering. I believe you deserve to know, so I want to give you the opportunity tonight, an offer of a wellness breakthrough evaluation. This would include a complete health history, examination, including head to toe postural analysis, the nervous system scans we talked about, any specific orthopedic or neurologic analysis of any particular complaint you might have. On your way out, I'm going to sit behind the front desk and I will schedule any appointments you'd like at my expense as a gift. If you don't have your schedule or the schedule of whoever else you would like to see checked, we can change it later. But I really want you to have the opportunity and to be able to give others the opportunity. When you or they come in, we'll do a consult, talk about any health concerns you may have. We'll fully evaluate that and scan your nervous system. And you will leave, or they will leave with more information about their health, not their illness, their health, than they ever had before. So thank you again, and please pay it forward and change your life.